Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
On a mission like an infantry soldier. Mad musical freedom fighter.
Hello, this is Werewolf the Podcast, and this is yet another podcast in the series. I think it's part 14. Is it part 14? Yeah, it's part 14, and we're on episode 125. Ooh. Down in the description, you can go and get loads of things. You can come and join our Facebook group where you can talk to like-minded individuals, which is worrying. And then there's Twitter and Instagram and all those kind of things. There's also books down there, books that you can buy from different wonderful authors who are all sort of part of the team. So if you want to go and get some werewolf literature, there's loads down there. Hopefully, you know what's going on, so that I don't have to spend half this podcast going over what's happened so far. So really, what I'd really like to really do is really get on with it, if that's possible. So, with no further ado, we're getting back to Will. That's me, but it's in the story now. Okay? Will. So now in the dark I run. I now leave behind a life that I had. It's burnt and now gone. I run from. I don't mind where. I don't mind where I end up, as long as it is just a way. I just now have to deal with the from and not worry about the where. The Simon man was pretty good at warning me. To be honest, if he'd not said anything, I would have probably been, I would have been properly fucked. As I run, the night alters massively in nature, from a dark and crisp quiet to utter fucking mentalness. Helicopters are suddenly there, soldiers and police are there and fucking there and fucking there. Shouting and planned confusion is occurring around me. I run from my human form to my wolf form, the change lending me an increase in speed and lung capacity. Thank fuck. Wisps of clothing tatters float into the night, and my pelt of darkness sways me, making it hard to find me, even in the spotlights that search for me now. I keep expecting it. It's like a little tick in the back of my neck. What it is, I don't know, but I'm waiting for it to hit my body. A bullet, maybe a grenade, or the way Simon was talking, a fucking howitzer. Would I even notice that, or would I just be gone? Here one moment, not the next. The key to my survival in the next short period of time is getting through the smallest unit of time we can perceive, the now. The now exists in, absolute minutiae. In fact, the now doesn't really exist. It's not really a measure of time. Once we recognise the now, it's already gone. I just have to survive each now as it occurs for the next few, nows. I've just survived the first now. A sniper suitably aided by his spotter took a somewhat shit shot from a distant vantage point. He squeezed his trigger just now. The concrete curb that I've run past just now shatters into powder and flying pieces by my head just now. The concrete shards patter against my pelt as I try to run as fast but lower to the ground just now. I now hear the gunshot. That's often a very good sign. If you hear the gunshot, it means that you're not just now dead. If I'd been dead, I would have not heard the gun at all. Now another ricocheting shot 2 feet ahead of my head, and then the sound of the shot. I now jink to the left and the right, not running into the spot where the bullet struck. That would be a great way for them now to line me up for a kill shot. This is repeated through several nows as I run and bullets nick my pelt, the path and the stonework. The helicopters now find me and rise above me with powerful searchlights pinpointing my position on the path now. I got through those nows. There will be a little longer time between the nows now as they happen. I now get to the tunnel and that canal that passes into it, into the welcome dark and the welcome cover of that dark. Now they cannot see me from the sky. Now the drones that chase me are unable to follow. Now I can take a breath. Now I can lick my mental wounds while the nows turn into, well, past moments. Now I can plan my future. I'm going from the nows to the what will be and the moments. I slow as the dark engulfs me in its loving embrace, and in the final important now of this particular scene, I sense them enter the tunnel behind me. The smell of men under stress. They think they're being stealthy, but I can hear all they try to hide. The pervading noise is that of their army-issue boots crunching over the stony debris of the tunnel floor. The muffled movements of clips on webbing. Each man's pulse and breathing all highlight each individual's position in space to me. How do you exist, you humans, without this? Your view of the world is just so limited. The smells hit me next. The background stench of the tunnel with its damp accents of decay and petrochemical intrusion of pollutants. Well, that's changed as the soldiers bring their own unnatural and natural odours into the mix. They stink and they are loud. I sense that even these, the best of the best, are, well, just too human to hide from my world of awareness. They are, well, ungraceful monkeys trying to move carefully and purposefully into the welcoming dark, the quiet dark that does not love them, but it loves me. The darkness is my home. They're just visiting from all those millennia of those sunny open African savannas that they evolved in. Fen and I crack a smile on a jaw, really, not designed for it by time, but designed to rip and tear flesh from bone. Carnassials, canines, and incisors ready to do their work are shown to the envious dark, the dark that is my friend and their enemy. My training in the MOD has granted me knowledge that I can now use to pigeonhole the group of men that follow me. For as much as I belittle them, they are still the best of the best that the world can offer to be my hunters, and that's exciting in itself. I recognise a classic Special Forces team of 8 brave... Yes, they're all men. I would guess them to be American Special Forces by the movement and the precision they possess. Most likely an Alpha team. An Alpha team is following me, and it's doing it not so carefully, to be honest. The British Special Forces are a group of individuals working together as sum of their parts. The Americans are, firstly, a team. Each man is designed as a link in a super strong chain. This knowledge means I would have a minor sort of way to be able to deal with them in having that knowledge. I stop. In my giant black wolf form, my pelt is matte blackness. It soaks the light from the world. In my total stillness, I disappear into the enveloping darkness. When sure I'm not detected by the group, I slink deeper into the shadows that caress me and take me willingly into them, the shadows that recognize me for what I am and hide me lovingly. The 8 men are working in 2 4-man fire teams as they very carefully and very professionally make their way up the tunnel towards me. Cover and move. Cover and move. They must be very brave. Oh, they must be witless and unaware of what they're coming up against. Their leaders and betters must not value them or not think me much of a threat. This is going to be so much fun. This is my world. Although this tunnel site was created by man, nature in all her brutal beauty has resumed control of this space and will willingly help me against the human invaders to her little dark realm. This time, she has an aid to the fight. She has me. They bring with them all that technology they need to overcome their pathetic natural limitations, such as weapons and night vision and infrared nonsense. They cover and move, cover and move, cover and move forward. They're very thorough in their checks. Heart rates are high and the smells of stress lash from their skins. Cover and move, cover and move. They may be good, but this space is not made for this kind of operation. The space hides the canal from, well, a great deal of Manchester. Above us is a great deal of Manchester. So you can imagine the space is gigantic and cave-like. The floor they walk on changes levels at random with holes, and there's steps and blocks and walls and scaffolding and rockfalls, and that all gives a prospective enemy cover. That's not great for them when we are your enemy. No, not just Fen and I, but all that this place holds against its human creators. Nature has come back here and brought with her pure malice, which is hidden in this place. But I can feel it, process it, and channel it. Nature has had harm done to her, so she wants to create some reciprocal harm. I use my knowledge of how the specialist squads work and sit behind a wall in my werewolf form ready. I know that the USA Special Forces have moved away from the tactical room clearance of the old days, if they can help it. Sadly, the new methodology is that, well, they engage is to blow the place the fuck up and all that's in it. It's a highly risky thing doing urban clearances if your consideration is to the soldiers doing the actual clearing, which I suppose it should be. So tactically, taking out the building causes fewer good guy deaths, and who cares about, the bad people and the innocent deaths as long as the good guys are okay. So it was going to go two ways. There's going to be a fuckload of firepower launched at me, which in consideration, maybe they didn't really have, or they would actually have to come and hoik me out of there. I was ready for either. I took the position ready for incoming grenades and fire from large caliber weapons, one hand over my eyes, another protecting the most important part of me, my bollocks. I might be able to take significant damage and pain, but the more I could reduce it, especially in that area, the better. It's probably more a mental thing than a physical thing. Nothing arrived, not even a flashbang but the men kept getting slowly closer. They were a tight unit, obviously trained for such contingencies as this. Well, almost like this. Had they been told what was waiting for them? Maybe. Can you imagine that?
Yes, gentlemen, you will be clearing a sizable underground space in the dark with many pitfalls and much cover. Your job is to take down the combatant that will be dug in. As you can see by the schematics, it is large and we're unable to blow the shit out of it. It's probably not how it was explained by the commanding officer, but in my mind it's pretty accurate. American soldier number one. I'll try the accent.
Hey man, what are we going in against, sir?
Is that right? I don't know. The group of soldiers raised their heads in expectation and excitement at the task and the info.
Well, it's lycanthrope versipilis, says the briefing officer, and as to try and get past what has just been said, he rushes to continue. With no ranged weapons.
Most of the guys are grunts and trained not to ask many questions, but somewhere in Captain Kevlar's brain a spark strikes and he unintentionally breaks the officer's stream of consciousness.
A what?
He asks. Everyone stops to look at him while the commanding officer steps up to the lectern, leaning on it and rolling up his sleeves to reveal his big butch arms, and repeats with huge resignation.
It's, a lycanthrope versipilis.
This time with a little less enthusiasm. Silence from the group. These days, Latin isn't a big subject at high school in America, so many faces now have that not a clue look. The bossman sighs. It's a fucking werewolf, he tells them as he holds a serious stance and position, waiting for the laughter to recede and the realisation that what the officer in charge is saying is what he actually meant. These are the times that I love having Fen directly in my head with me, because we both saw the images and the conversation and it was really funny. Not many sane people get to share their ideals with people in their heads, and I have to say it's a special thing we have. Shared sanity. Now, I had to wait and see what the methodology of the squad would be. The good news was that the space was, well, it was a pretty wide open area, so flashbang grenades would be a minor factor here, and all I had to do really was wait for the man on point. The first soldier in would have to be dealt with very quickly. The second man in was the key, really. He was the team leader. The first soldier in I would leave blind and squawking, yet unharmed. The second I needed to be injured, but not killed. The other team members would then fall into having to make contact with the squad leader, that's the one up above from him, and make some individual decisions which would make them slow to react, and what I kind of needed was time. I was in cover in a half-built wally room of sorts. A huge brick wall had been built from one side of the cave to the other to block off anyone getting deeper into the tunnel as a whole. It had a door-sized opening that would have had a very solid door in it before it was battered off its hinges by, well, whoever wanted to explore further into the tunnel, to be honest. I would assume the soldiers would have thought that I was long gone on my mission to run away. I imagine they were hoping I was now miles and miles away and still running. What they would not expect is me waiting at the first hurdle to cause them as much of a problem as possible. They're all well trained, and the man on point slowly makes his way from cover with the others to a point where he can check all visual angles before proceeding to the open doorway. This is all in the Special Forces training, and he would more than likely stick to that training, which I knew, which is obviously a bonus. They always move from left from an entry point. I know it makes it a little easier for people in the know to deal with the first to enter, but they should be quickly followed by a second who then obviously goes right. This plan is very effective, and to be honest, they should know that I know what they know and know that they would then walk right into my world. Ooh, that was complicated. Bonus, no flashbang. Obviously, they were not part of the kit, and they had a lot of area to clear, so they would need to be frugal even if they had them. I don't think that they would expect me to be ready to intercept them at the first hard point of cover. They're not really being careful enough. They were in too much of a rush, and his head came into view, and I grabbed it, ripping the goggles from his face and threw him physically a few 100 yards, well, it felt like that, onto the ground from my position. The man can now not see, and he is all alone in the dark. He calls out to his unit to let them know where he is. He does not fire or panic, because that could kill others, important others. The next man passes the point at which I hide. They momentarily check on the compatriot, their mistake, and I grab an ankle, the ankle of the second soldier, lifting him off his feet and to my mouth, where I bite into the leg just above that ankle. I have to grind and rip through the flesh and bone to remove the foot, and as I twist the boot, cracking bones so that I can clear it of my teeth, I feel the flesh tear and those bones shatter and break as I remove that foot and cast it to one side. The man screams and tries to lift his weapon in my direction, but I quickly swipe his head and upper body against the wall before he pulls the trigger. Once the man is a little more, shall we say, subdued by a few impacts against the wall, I repeatedly stamp on the gun and the arm holding it so that it's no longer working, and I now lift him by the defootified leg to shoulder height. After 3 or 4 crunching stomps, I can see that the gun and arm are now broken and, well, pretty useless. Oh, how the man yells as he tries to support his messed up limb with his other arm. I pause for a moment. just to enjoy my work, enjoy this scene. With the threat from him finished, I reached for the tourniquet that he's built into his combat trousers just above the knee. This is a very American thing to have. They have like tourniquets built into the soldier's combat dress just in case. I pull it tight and now toss him aside and take a close look at what's going on, and then I go further into close cover. I haven't got a fucking clue what's going to happen next. I wait for the third man and the fourth man to do something. They hang back. Maybe they're waiting for the other four. I don't know. I should be running. I really should be running, but this is too much fun. The man with no goggles tells them he's okay. The downed man with no foot groans and rasps in the darkness. Torches flash into life through the door. They can see that the footless man is there on the floor. That kind of rhymed. He's reaching for a bloody torn stump where his foot once was. He's very well trained, though, as he falls into silence and sits there still. I hear movement outside. They're gonna enter. Just the two of them. I would be able to take them both down and then I would go. Then I'd run. I sense them making their nervous way forward, the crunching gravel. Here they come. I'm ready. Then there's a movement outside and a backpack is bundled through the doorway, and the quiet caution that the soldiers once had is replaced by noisy, running, retreating feet. I watch the backpack with kind of a shocked interest. It rolls along the floor and does not stop before I realise and have turned away from it and try and hit the floor. An explosion, I think. A woomph behind me. Heat. White light through closed eyes, and then pain, burning. Shit. In my head, I know what it is, and it's a very clever move. It was white phosphorus, and it was perfect against a werewolf. I'd not thought that they would do something as horrific as this. They were willingly killing, burning their team members to get me. That's so impressive. I had true admiration of the commander of this op. I mean, it just rose in my chest as I was covered in fucking burning material. It was clever. The space was now full of smoke and noise and fire, and that would mask the soldiers' entrance. The pain was excruciating as my pelt erupted into flame, and I felt the heat on my skin. I only had one thing to do and one place to go, and that was into the fucking canal. Would that help? No idea with white phosphorus. Does that burn underwater? No idea, but it was the only thing that may help. On fire and screaming, I ran towards the still cold waters, men shouting behind me, and gunfire came back into my ears as they readjusted after the damage of the explosion, and then the hearing was gone. Had it been burnt out? I had no idea. My ear, what? I was running towards the water as I became a human. No, not a human. A werewolf torch. A fucking werewolf torch. I looked briefly at my hands, the pain, to see burning nubs where my fingers and claws had once been. They were gone. They were burnt. They were removed. And then there was nothing. The world was only pain. The pain. All I felt was the pain, and then a fall, and that was that. The darkness, and then nothing. Thanks for listening. Please go to the description. Support the show if you can. It would be good of you because it's nice. And always remember, whatever happens, there's someone here who loves you. Bye-bye.
On a mission like an infantry soldier. Mad musical freedom fighter. On a mission like an infantry soldier.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.